This last segment is going to focus on food additives, which you probably hear about all of the time. There are approximately 3,000 food additives that have been approved for use in the United States. And you can't just use any food additive that you want. It has to be approved. So the use of food additives is very strictly controlled, and they're well studied for safety. So again, before something can be added to a food, it has to be studied. And now what we're finding is that many food additives that were once considered safe, the longer that we study them, we think that they're not safe anymore. And so some things that used to be safe are no longer considered safe. So food additive safety evaluation kind of changes all of the time, but the use of food additives is very strictly controlled. When we talked about trans fat at one time, trans fats are no longer allowed as a food additive because they're no longer considered as safe. So that would be one example. Food additives are not all bad. They're often shed in a negative light, but they actually give foods very desirable characteristics. They can change the color or enhance the color, flavor, and texture. They provide stability, and they can enhance nutrient composition. They can help to resist spoilage, and they actually can help enhance the safety of the food. However, where we get concerned is when the consumption of them enhances our own safety. So there's this thing that we have called GRAS, which stands as generally recognized as safe. And this is a list of food additives that have been used for a really long time. Any item or food additives that is on this list poses no known hazards, so they're essentially believed to be safe. As I mentioned before, this list is periodically reviewed, so it's never, this has been on there and it's always going to be on there. This is periodically reviewed for safety. So trans fat is one that is no longer considered safe and it's no longer on the GRAS list. We also have this thing called margin of safety. So, we can have toxicity, which is just a general property, and then we can have hazard, which is the capacity that we consume that can produce injury under certain conditions. So it is important to know, it's kind of like when we have our ULs and our AIs or all of our DRIs, we have this margin of safety, so this margin that we can consume that we know is safe. While there are some risks of food additives, the benefits far outweigh the risks. So looking back on the previous slide, what those benefits are of additives. So the benefits of these are definitely worth it. However, color additives that really provide no use other than color, that could be more questionable. And those are definitely being studied. And some countries have said that the color additives are not safe. But that's still to come in the United States. Additives to improve safety and quality, we're going to discuss a few of these. So salt and sugar are actually food additives, and these are very common in our food supply. They're very widely used as preservatives. So we often think of them only for flavor, and they do make our food taste good, but they actually have a scientific use as well. So they help to remove the water from food, and then, again, this can help to prevent microbial growth and provide a less ideal environment for bacterial growing. Nitrites are another food additive. These are used to preserve the pink color in hot dogs and cured meats, and also help to prevent rancidity and bacterial growth. However, there could be some safety issues with nitrites, and this is another area that's sort of hot and being examined more, that people that have a very high intake of hot dogs or cured meats, they may actually be at increased risk of colon cancer. So more information to come on that. Sulfites are another additive. They are used to prevent oxidation in many processed foods, alcoholic beverages, and drugs. Sulfites are found in wine. They can destroy thiamine in food, and that's where, there could be some negative effects there, because thiamine, we know, is an important B vitamin. But the use of sulfites is very strictly controlled, and they cannot be used in foods that are meant to be consumed raw. So they couldn't be used in produce, for example, but they can be used they are found in wine. Flavoring agents. We have non-nutritive sweeteners, and then monosodium glutamate are some examples of flavoring agents. So non-nutritive sweeteners make food taste very sweet without promoting dental decay or providing empty calories. So they're a popular use in diet beverages, or people that want to cut calories but still want things to be sweet. There is an acceptable daily intake of non-nutritive sweeteners, and you can see some examples here. The effect on weight is unknown. A lot of people use them to help lose weight, there's some mixed evidence about just because you have less empty calories coming from sugar, your body may not recognize that it's actually consuming those sweet foods, and we tend to overcompensate later to still consume the same amount of calories. So the effect on weight is unknown. But there, again, the benefits are that you're getting fewer empty calories from those foods, and you have a decreased risk of dental decay. Some examples are aspartame, ACE-K, saccharin, stevia, and sucralose. So you've probably seen or heard about these all of the time, and you may even use some of these yourself. Monosodium glutamate is used widely specifically in Asian restaurants. It has this umami taste, so it's not sweet, salty, sour, or savory. It's this umami. The MSG symptom complex can occur in individuals that have a sensitivity to MSG, so they may get these really awful headaches. And if you notice that you consume like Chinese food and then you have these really bad symptoms, you may have this complex. So it's very important to read food labels and to avoid MSG if you have those symptoms. If you don't have the symptoms, it's a perfectly safe flavoring agent. Fat replacers and artificial fats can provide some of the taste, texture, and cooking qualities of fats and provide fewer or no calories. So these are kind of like non-natural sweeteners, but for fat. They can be derived from any of the macronutrients. So fat replacers derived from carbohydrates are used as thickeners or stabilizers in things like soups or salad dressings. Protein, those derived from protein, provide a creamy feeling, so they might be used in ice cream or yogurt. And then fat, derived fat replacers may be used as emulsifiers. They're very heat stable, so these are the ones that are going to be used in baking. One of the most common fat replacers is Olestra. It can't be absorbed by the body, so basically you consume these foods that taste fatty with this fat replacer, and you're not absorbing any of that. The problem with Olestra is that it can cause digestive distress with large doses, but it also binds to fat-soluble vitamins and phytochemicals. So as it's binding and Olestra is not being absorbed, it's not letting those other vitamins be absorbed either. Therefore, Olestra is fortified with our fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K to make sure that we're getting more of those in our diet because it's taking some of them with it. So it's just important to be mindful of Olestra use, and you could have a decrease you could actually become deficient in your fat-soluble vitamins. We've kind of talked about food contaminants, but some incidental food additives, again, these are going to be unintentionally added to food, so anything that's not supposed to be there. And these can end up in food during production, processing, storage, packaging, preparation. You see some examples here. Even like having a hair in your food could be an example of an incidental food additive. BPA is another example. Safety is currently being examined some more, so a lot of things cans or plastics are becoming BPA free now because it's thought that there are some negative health benefits there. And it's also important to use microwave safe containers, and not something that could be leaching these additives into your food. So to conclude about food safety, the U.S. food supply is largely safe. And it is definitely, we need to consume food, as we've talked about. So our food supply in the U.S. is safe, and we should consume it. Hazards are pretty rare, and foodborne illnesses, microbial illnesses, are posing the greatest threat to consumers in the United States. New preventive technology and procedures are needed. We also need this increased consumer awareness. So we can keep our food safe at every other point, but it also comes down to us as consumers to keep our food safe in our homes and that we're properly handling everything. So take some responsibility and keep your food safe at home as well. All right, I briefly want to talk about the controversy for Chapter 12 about genetically modified foods, or GMOs, and what are the cons. So most people consume genetically engineered foods all the time, but some countries have banned their consumption or the making of them. Some of this is based on some credible beliefs, so there is a little bit of evidence that says that some things could be negative for our health, but there's also a lot of irrational fear going on. So fearmongers are telling us all these things are bad. There's this distrust of technology, and then there's just a lot of misinformation. So we'll definitely check out the controversy and come up with your own opinion about it, and know the science. And if you think that genetically engineered foods are bad, if you can quote some scientific evidence for that, great. If you think they're good, quote some scientific evidence for that. But definitely don't just, think that they're bad or good because someone told you, or I told you they were fine, or I told you they were bad. So definitely have your own belief, but have a reason for having that. There are a lot of biotechnology methods that have been used to solve or to try to solve current food and energy problems. So we have selective breeding, so choosing traits that we want and, kind of getting rid of the weakest link, recombinant DNA technology, and then suppressing unwanted traits. So some of these you can see, like we have different colors of these carrots. That's genetically modified. Different colors of cauliflower. This here is a pluot. It's a cross between an apricot and a plum. You might have seen a grapple, which is a cross between a grape and an apple. It's an apple that tastes like a grape. So genetically modified foods, we're consuming them, and if that's going to make me eat fruit, is that a negative thing? So just something to think about, but biotechnology has definitely helped us increase our food supply in a variety of ways. There are some promises and problems. So related to human nutrition, you can read about golden rice. This is rice that contains very high levels of beta carotene for countries, and it's consumed in countries where they may have a limited access to food. There are molecules from microbes that can get on things. GMOs can help have greater crop yields. Food from cloned animals, is that safe or is it unsafe? The nutrient composition, this is important. Nutrient composition of GMO foods is identical to conventionally grown food groups unless it's been intentionally modified. So the red carrot or the orange carrot is going to have the same nutrition as a yellow carrot, most likely. There may be a little bit of difference of, maybe the orange one probably has a little bit more beta carotene because it's orange. There could be some accidental ingestion of drugs from foods due to overconsumption. There are unintended health benefits, but these are unpredictable, and we don't have enough long-term studies to know about the true safety. Environmentally, it's also unknown. It's kind of like the pesticides. It's good for us, but it could be bad for the environment. So that's also an area that's still being examined. And then there's a lot of question about the ethics of this behind genetic engineering. So regardless of where you're going to consume produce, it's really important, or what types of produce you're going to consume, it's important that you just consume produce. So we know the benefits of consuming fruits and vegetables, and there are some statements from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So their statement is that agricultural and food biotechnology can enhance the quality, safety, nutritional value, and the variety of the food supply while helping to solve problems of production, processing, distribution, environmental, and waste management. So they're saying that it's fine to eat and that it's definitely a beneficial thing for our food supply. FDA also says that these GMO foods are safe unless they are very different from the conventional counterparts. So yes, that obviously makes sense. If something's very different, we probably don't want to consume it. And what's the rationale for making it so different? However, it is important to note that foods from genetically engineered animals must be marketed with FDA approval. So, some company can't just go out and start, genetically engineering some kind of animal and cloning it and then selling it. That would have to be approved by FDA because they want to keep our food safe as well. So definitely take some time to read that and form an opinion about your own consumption of genetically modified foods.